Don't rush into a relationship and close your eyes and ears. Take the time needed to dig deep. You like him, he likes you. Now what? Where do we go from here? Working through the nitty-gritty of a relationship can be exciting and confusing at the same time. How do you figure out if a guy or girl is someone you want to spend the rest of your life with? You ask questions. Take the time to slow down and ask yourself and your man or woman. Questions is key. Listen. Each question could lead you to another question that will help bring clarity. So join me as my wife of 49 years, Carolyn, and I go deeper not only in our story, but the things single people should be looking out for while dating. In my junior year in high school, guy that she was dating, Carolyn was dating, would come talk to me. And he says, "You're in church?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm dating a girl that goes to one of those churches like you go to." And he said all of these wonderful things about her. He says, "But I like to go out. I like to club and partying. She doesn't want any parts of the party." And then he asked me for counsel and, how do you think I ought to handle that? I say, "Well, this is what I think you ought to handle that. She's not going to probably change and do that. You'll probably need to be the one changing." Then he graduated, and then I became a senior. And then a few years later, I meet Carolyn at church. I'm going, "Oh, this is the young lady that
by that time
he was talking about."
Yeah.
Young people, have always gravitated to EC. I was introduced to her by a girl I dated. So when I saw her, I went like, wow, she's very stunning. I liked the fact that she was independent. She had a class about her. And everybody talks about her class now, but she had that class then. And I was very impressed with that. I said, I want to get to know her. Her grandmother first started attending our church, then her mom came and joined, and then she would come when she come home from college and attend.
I would just visit.
I was Sunday school superintendent, and she liked Sunday. She's always liked study of the word, always. And so she would come to our Sunday school and then go to the church that she was attending. And so I remember saying to her one time, "Well, if our Sunday school is that good to come to, what you think about coming to the church?" She said, "I have a church." I said, "Okay."
So during this time, I was in college, and I would come home on the weekends sometimes. And one particular time, I had a friend in college. He just asked if I would hold on to his car till he comes back. So we drove from Manhattan to Kansas, and I dropped him off at the airport, and I was just, holding on to his car. And while I was home, I went to EC. Well, it wasn't called EC.
It's Evangelist Temple.
Yeah. And so I went there for a service as everyone was leaving out, and I went out to the car and it would not start. And so I went back inside and asked if I could use the phone so that I could call someone to come and check out the car. And Jack said he didn't know nothing about cars. But he comes out to the car and he tells me to pop the hood like he knows what he's doing. So I popped the hood. I don't know what he did. And I don't know why the car wouldn't start at first, but it started right up.
It's these anointed hands I have now.
The car started right up, and the window was down, and he put his hand, did something like this to my cheek.
I pinched her on her cheek.
I'm like, don't
she was
be,
offended.
Don't be touching me.
Don't be touching me. She looks very stunned, like, I can't believe you touched my cheek. She said, like, what did you do? I said, my brother was a Camaro. And so I said, my brother had a car like this and before, and I just, did.
What
really,
did
I didn't do anything under the hood. I just popped the hood, said, "In Jesus' name." And the car started. It really started right up.
Really
she was shocked, and I looked at her like, "Yeah, you want to come back in and just talk to me," because I was locking up the church. Everybody else had left. And normally, when Carolyn would visit, she'd leave, early, right at benediction. She just cut out, and I said, That was the Lord's way of having her wait there so I could make my pursuit. We had a service at church, and I had just got this slamming Monte Carlo. It was cranberry red with a white vinyl top. It was sharp. Carolyn came home that weekend. She was at that service. And I said, I'm going to ask her to go out with me tonight. My parents and my dad always taught us, you respect your girl's parents, show great respect. You win the parents, then, you might have a buy-in. Before I said anything to her, I went to her mom and I said, I'd like to take your daughter out tonight, if that's okay with you. And she smiled and she said, sure, So I went to Carolyn and I said, I already got permission from your mom. She said, permission from my mom? I'm a grown woman. And I said, but you're still in your mama's house, and I'm taught to respect your mom. I said, would you go with me? And so she humbled and said, sure, I'll go with you. Back in the day, keep in mind, this is 49 years ago, okay? 49 years ago.
Yeah, we went to, there's this little hamburger joint. Was it Paul's?
It was Paul's.
Yeah, and I
What was called Eden's then.
Eden's, yeah.
Eden's then.
Ordered a hamburger basket.
You get fries, onion rings, and the thing was a shake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was our first
date.
My feelings as far as the way that I looked at things at that time. Remember, I am a junior in college, getting ready to go into my senior year, and it was very, very important to me to complete all of that. So, I thought he was a nice guy and all that, but I didn't think he was, he was a nice church guy.
You thought it was boring, you said?
Yeah, I did. I thought he would be a very boring type person because
So it looks serious all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
He's at that time he was the organist as well as serving along with his dad, and he'd just be on the organ. He just look all, stern and stuff, and I'm like, nah. So it took a while after I got to know him a little bit better and know that his sitting on the organ was one person, a person outside.
Like that other person outside.
I was a little bit different. Some of the things about him that really kind of drew me more to him was, he was very personable and, funny. I won't say crazy acting, but he was a lot of fun. He was more outgoing than I was, and still is, as a matter of fact. Just very outgoing, very personable type person. So those were some of the things.
I love the fact that she was independent and she was not a groupie, because sometimes growing up in the church, you see a lot of girls in the church, they're in groups, at clusters, and always together with a girlfriend or two or three of them, and always felt like if it was a group cluster like that, they talked a lot. And so whatever I would say to a girl I'm dating, if she's in a cluster, all the other girls in the group don't know it, And so I like the fact that she's very independent, and I think that's her strength coming from a single parent home. And she was just classy, very quiet. She says introvert. I'm more of an extrovert, so it kind of gave a balance. And then I liked her discipline that I saw. They were that household that cooked from scratch. We'd have Friday night service, and sometimes she said, well, I got to get up in the morning, because we get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, her and her mom, and they go to the city market. And I went like, hey, a young lady in college getting up, going to the city market, talking about picking greens and doing that kind of stuff. I went like, oh yeah, she'll make a good wife and a good mother for my children. And then there were times like we'd be at church and she would, like that love language, are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? They live not far from the church. Well, once you come around to the house, I would be invited to eat. She had younger siblings, and they were coming to our vacation Bible school. And so I think they were instrumental too in kind of pulling us together.
In college, and I called back home, my siblings would say, yeah, we went to vacation Bible school. Brother Jack this, Brother Jack that. I'm like, well, who is Brother Jack? Brother Jack. So they loved Brother Jack. Yeah. My grandmother loved Brother Jack. And so did my mom.
Yeah, they did.
He won over my whole entire family.
And that was a plus for me, It
was maybe about a year and a half.
A little bit over in a year, about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half. And I said, you know what? This is the young lady I'd like to spend the rest of my life with. And so I remember, I think officially, we went to the World War I memorial. She said, oh, this is just beautiful. And so we was just on a wonderful summer night.
And he was just talking about his dreams and his aspirations and things that he wanted to do. So that kind of captivated me, that he had some goals. He had a vision of where he wanted to go.
So that night I said, yeah, let me put it on. So I don't know if she was expecting, but I turned around and kissed her. It was Valentine's Day, I never will forget. So, you know, at that time they had huge cards. I mean, a card like this tall, this wide. And so the card was given a Valentine's greeting. And then when I took it to the house, gave her the big card. So all she sent is this big card. And then when she reads the bottom line of the card, there's an engagement ring taped to the bottom of the card. And she goes, oh. I said, will you marry me? Her family was there too, because they knew, they kind of knew what was going to take place. She just didn't know. Well, the day that we got married was a lot of challenges. She got upset with me.
I did.
Because she came by my house and said, I need you to go pick up the ginger ale. And then I said, I'm not going to be able to go pick up.
For the reception.
For the reception.
You know,
I said, I'm not going to be able to do that because we got a problem with the tuxedos. My tuxedo, I don't know what they did, but when I put the pants on, the pants came up to my calves. And so I said, this is not going to work. This is all Saturday, the day of the wedding. So give me in some more pants. She was trying to do something, came up the steps in your basement and messed up your toe. Yeah. So she couldn't even put on her wedding shoes. Her toe was swollen, I think. Yeah, she had to have footies on. She had to drag her leg down the aisle under the wedding dress. And so at the house, she said, well, you can't do this. I can't do all of this running. I said, well, I can't do what you want me to do. And so she speeds off on the day of the wedding. Speeds off. I said, she'll be all right. I got to go get this tuxedo taken care of. I can't be wearing high water pants. Then our wedding, the church held about 1,000 people. And it was next to a club, very popular club. So the wedding, I think, started at 6. We ended up starting a little late. And one reason why they say the wedding was starting late is there's so many people coming. And they were trying to get the people seated. And so what was funny, they told us that the people that were coming to the club for event they were having that evening couldn't even get into the club because of the people that were at the wedding. So the people that were going to the club said, you know what, we need to go see who these celebrities are. So they just, instead of going to the club, they delayed their event and all of them came to the wedding. You know, that's some of the things that happened on our wedding. There's a beautiful wedding. You know, we look at the pictures now and go like, wow. And so they called it the wedding of the year. Our bishop at the time, Bishop McDonald, did the vows, and my dad did the consecration prayer over us and communion. And he said to us at the end of the wedding, he said, before you go see a judge, come see me. And so I would often tell him, well, I haven't had to come see you. And so I said that to him, you know, a little bit before he passed away. He and my dad passed away about the same time. Well, things start transitioning. I ended up leaving college a semester early because I got a job offer with IBM. And it was at the time that door was open, and if you didn't take that door, you don't know when a door like that would come, which was a blessing at the time because we had began to prepare to have children. And so IBM had great, tremendous benefits at that time. And so trying to juggle work-life balance, ministry, I think for both Carolyn was teaching school, I'm working corporate, we're heavily involved in church. Yeah. You know, we would, you look back in time and you wonder like, wow, how do we really do all of that? You know, she get off from work, she go get one church van, I get off from work, go get another church van. Sometimes she's picked me up from work with dinner and Tupperware dishes so I'd have something to eat because now we got to pick up the people for church. We're the last ones, lock up, drop everybody off, we're getting home late. And I remember one night, it was so funny. We first got married. And
this was before we had children.
Yeah, before we had children. Mm-hmm. And we're going home from church, and so she flips open the glove compartment of the car. And I go, what you doing? She said, I'm going to bed when you go to bed. I'm rolling my hair. Bought a whole set of rollers to keep them in the car. Because we're the last ones to leave church. So when we get home on Sunday nights, you know, it's late. And so she says, when you get home, you crash, you out. I'm in there trying to roll my hair. They got a wash face and all that. She said, you know what, I'm going to bed when you go to bed. And that was so funny. I never will forget that. Pull that mirror down, start rolling that hair. I said, girl, you're so crazy.
So as time went on, we had our first child, and then 2 years later, the second one, and then 5 years later, the third one. With children, of course, the dynamics of your relationship kind of changes, or the dynamics of the house kind of changes, because it's not just the two of you going here, going there. We meet up at a certain time, all's good. You have children that have to be taken care of. And so the juggling of now children plus careers plus ministry. Sometimes it did get somewhat challenging. I'm the type that I want home to be a certain way, and sometimes they wanted to stay, but I know they had to be at school in the morning. So sometimes it was a bit of a challenge to make sure that I could leave or get the kids out.
And then if I'm out of town speaking, time for a conference and their activities, school, then that was put on her, on Carolyn, to have to do that. And
there was a time that he was traveling a lot.
A lot, right.
So I had all of it.
And I think that's one reason why we're able to help couples now in ministry to learn from some of the things that we did or that I did, to be able to say, hey, you don't want to make that mistake. If you can, the old saying said, you go back, turn back the hands of time, you do some things different. My saying I say now, learn the lessons, forget the details, and you help people keep it moving. Say this is what you don't want to do because this is what you regret. So I guess our goal now to help couples is to have them make better decisions with fewer regrets.
Did our marriage make it through that? Of course, you can see that it did, but that's because of our commitment to the marriage.
And that commitment piece is very strong. And Carolyn has always said that, it's not love that keeps you together. It's like the four-leaf clovers. You say sometime, I love you, she loves me not, she loves me, she loves me not. But it's a commitment that you make. And she said to me some time ago over the years, when I made that commitment, divorce was not in the agreement.
So our mindsets and what we thought we wanted in our 20s was different than when we made it to our 30s.
Right.
And then going into 40s, that's a different dynamics. And because our children are graduating then, and they are beginning to leave the nest per se. And then when we reach our 50s, we have grandchildren. So the dynamics of your life changes as you get older and as you mature. I'll put it that way, as you mature. So as we look back, we can say, boy, we were so silly. In August, it will be 49 years of marriage for us. And then, of course, the following year, 50. Boop, boop. So one of the things that when we meet with couples as they are preparing to get married, then we have these 49 years of experience that we really try to share with them. And one of the things is that when we're sitting down with couples is, what is your expectation? What is it that you really want in a marriage or in that person? Because what we found out that couples, when they get married and they haven't really gone deep enough in conversation, that there are a lot of things that I'm thinking is on my script, but it's not on his. This is what I'm expecting, because for us as women, I think every little girl has a thought about their marriage, their day, that when they'll meet their knight in shining armor, and he's gonna come take her away, maybe not on a white horse, but maybe it's a limo, but whatever that it is. But those expectations, what is your expectations? A lot of marriages end in divorce because of unmet expectations, but they were never communicated. You didn't ask me about that. You didn't ask me about my ideas of how money should be handled in a household. You didn't ask me about this or that. So we really try to go a little bit deeper than what a couple would normally talk about. And I hear them say all the time, we talk about everything. And once we get to talking, well, no, you don't talk about everything. So it's what we try to do with singles as they are in relationship is pull back some layers. Let's go a little bit deeper and talk about certain things. So a few years ago, Bishop and I did a session called Red Flags. And we went over some things for single ladies and guys to look out for. So from my perspective, I'm going to talk to the ladies. If a guy, you're out with you're dating a guy, and everywhere you all go, he cannot introduce you as this is my girlfriend, or he might say, well, this is my friend. Girl, if he can't say this is my girlfriend, then you're probably not. You're probably seeing things differently than he is. So I say, run.
On the street, they call him a player. And so I always say to young ladies, watch the vibe. So if you're out for a date, and he's whining and dining you, and you say it's even the first date or the second date, he is trying to give off signals like, are you ready to go home? Or, it's a beautiful night, we can go to my place. He's probably hinting to you that he wants a bedmate and not a soulmate. And when that happens, those are red flags.
Sometimes people say, get to know them a little bit before certain conversations come up. Well, I say, put it on the table. First date, second date, you want to know what is his intentions. And if he says, well, I'm not sure, I'm not sure if I'm the marrying type, then you are spinning your wheels with somebody and you need to move on.
And we've seen that scenario working with couples. We've seen them together 15 years, still not married. 10 years, still not married because it's not the marrying type, but you get locked in. And that's the danger of that. If you don't have goals, and it goes back to the expectations, it's easy to get into traps. And those traps can become strongholds. And when you want to get out, you've spent so much time and you feel you've invested so much that you're afraid you're going to lose your investment. Another thing about that is I see so many women thinking they can change a guy. You cannot change him. Well, I prayed, you cannot change him. My dad would often say, the change has to take place in the heart. And if there's not a change of heart, then there can't be a change of mind.
So this is another red flag. When there's something that's important that you want to talk about, putting your feelings on the table to say, listen, this is going on. And if he cannot respect how you feel about a certain issue and put it back on you as girl, that's just in your head. That's not that's just in your head. That's an indication that he can't handle conversations that would be revealing or where you have to be vulnerable.
Most women by nature are communicators. Most men aren't. I often say that women are like spaghetti. You don't know where they begin, you don't know where they're going to end. They're all entangled. Men are like waffles. They think in boxes. He has to process things.
Well, that spaghetti is a little bit different because when you say women are like spaghetti, it's because everything that's connected to us is affected.
Right.
So whatever happens to us, trust me, our children are going to be affected. If we have parents, they're going to know about it. Everything that's connected to us is going to be affected by whatever is going on with us. So that's why we are like spaghetti.
Right, and men are like waffles in the little boxes. They think in little boxes, and they have to process things step by step at a time. And sometimes if they have not been around or raised in an environment to communicate and always shut down, a lot of things can go back to childhood, environment, exposure, the kind of family that a man or a woman was raised in can determine their level of being able to communicate. And sometimes it's an escape. not to deal with it because you don't want to have that crucial conversation. And that is key in marriage, premarital. We encourage any couple that thinks you want to spend life together, go through the premarital counseling.
Yeah.
I don't mean sitting down with a pastor and he talks to you for an hour. I mean a certified program, and that's what Pastor Carolyn does. She's been certified in that. And every couple that we've had go through that marriage enrichment program has come back and said it has been the best thing that has ever happened to them. And we've had couples go through it, and at the end of it, they say, we're just going to be friends.
Yeah.
Because it brought out so much from communication, strength, conflict resolution, finances, the whole 9 yards, spirituality.
Another thing that we would tell singles as they are dating, make sure that you get to see the whole person. And by that I mean, see how they interact in family gatherings. See how they connect with their siblings or with their parents or, in that family setting. Are they withdrawn or do they communicate? Find out, look, take a good look at how they communicate in their family. And then with friends, look how they communicate when you're out with a few other people. Do they get mad quickly? Do they shut down when something doesn't go their way? All of those things are indicators. So it's not to say that they're not a good person,
right.
But you want to know what you're dealing with as much as possible before you find yourself walking down the aisle with a person that you've overlooked some things.
Because that cupcake season can really fool you. You got to know that the honey's not always on the moon.
It's going to drip.
It's going to drip.
So another red flag is the person that you're dating, they've got to be in your presence all the time. They have to see you every day, on the weekends. It's like you are their only outlet. You're their only person, that they have to do anything with. Attachment, correct. So that's a problem. That's a red flag, because what would you call that?
I would call it a red flag. I would call it attachment syndrome, where you are seeing signs of insecurity, signs of manipulation, signs of control. And those relationships are not good. You need to notice those signs early on, because what will happen, it will be a separation from family, separation from friends. So all the world that you've been used to, now you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
You're controlled.
Mm-hmm. And another way of control, but when he's telling you, no, I don't like you to wear your hair like that, you shouldn't wear your hair like that, or that, this is the type of clothes you should wear, and just kind of ruling who you are, then that is a controlling spirit. So if a guy does that and you're just dating them, then you can imagine how it would be if you actually married that person. So what we're saying with these red flags is, look at the red flags, don't ignore them, because the things that you ignore today will present a problem later. Know the issues, or know these things that you can see, and don't ignore them. And then make a conscious decision. Is this somebody that you can deal with for the rest of your life?
And then the decision can be governed by, is this going to complement me or complicate me?
Yeah.
And then the other part of that, is it going to complement the people in my circle, in my family that I'm attached to, or is it going to complicate things for them?
And I would say also to that we know that people mature. Do you have the capacity at this point in your life to really deal with that? Mm-hmm. We have talked to couples that as they were, planning their big day, and then we begin to go through different things, especially when it comes to finances, putting the finances on the table to know what your debt is and all of that. But we've seen some that would not necessarily lay it out on the table. And that is one of the things that will show up in a marriage that could destroy the relationship, because things were kept undercover when it should have been brought out in the open. And not only that, not only money, do they have a condition that would affect the marriage relationship if you were to continue on? So some things people need to, I think you need to bring all these things on the table at the beginning. And I say at the beginning because when you are emotionally involved with the person over time, you have a tendency to just overlook it and go ahead and, get married to the person, although you see all these things.
Women want security. My wife will say that all the time. I want security. And when they don't have security, the instability is a threat to their livelihood. And if a man is always changing jobs, always getting fired, and you're always, say you're married and he's always having to move, you don't have stability for yourself, stability for your children, that's a red flag. That says that there are underlying issues that have not been dealt with, because every place can't be a bad place of employment and fires you all the time. You have to be doing something to cause that reoccurrence.
So pay attention to that red flag.
Another red flag is when a man believes roles are for everyone in the household but him. They talk about 5 love languages. One of mine is I like doing things at the house. For example, my wife cooks, and even when she had our boys were home, she spent a lot of time in the kitchen. Well, we're empty nesters now, but I saw a sign and I had it put on the cabinet that says, if she who cooks shall not clean. So when she cooks, it's automatic. I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to do some laundry. If something needs to be done, she'll remind me this needs to be done, because, she has the schedule too. So it doesn't take from me, she has a pet peeve about making the bed, Don't get up out of that bed and leave it all day and the bed's not made. And a funny thing, there's sometimes maybe I got up in a hurry and she's gone, but I circle back before she gets home to have that bed made. But coming into a relationship and a marriage, it's an equal share, you balance out each other. So if one is heavy into something else, you see how you can lighten the load. So it doesn't take from masculinity, if she cooks, to get up and do the dishes or not head for the lounge room to watch the TV. She's still on her feet, she's labored, help out. And I know she appreciates that when I do that.
So when we're talking to dating couples, then, so what we're asking them is, what is your idea of the role of a man? What is your idea of the role of a woman? What do you expect? So when you put those things on the table, what is your expectation? Do you think a man should be the one to do the outside work of the home? Or do you think a woman's place is cooking, cleaning, take care of children, and you don't help? Because a lot of times what we believe comes from how we were raised.
Right.
Our community that we were raised with. We looked at what we saw, and then we bring those ideas into a new relationship.
Bring it into the relationship, right.
So it's good to find out why you are boyfriend, girlfriend. What is your idea about what a man does, what a woman does? And then that will in turn let you know what you need to talk about. Well, I believe this way. Well, I believe this way. And if you can't come on the same page.
Because I've had some guys say, well, I never had to cook. I never had to clean up. My mama did it all. My sister did it all. I just ate at the table and got to watch TV. Well, you bring that into a relationship. One
of the things to notice when you are dating someone, you're looking at more than just, I like the way he looks, dresses all nice, neat, clean, smell good all the time. But you want to look at their personality. How do they react when something don't go their way? Anybody that's been dating for any length of time, because you're two different people, you're gonna get angry about something. So how does that person react when they are angry? Are they the kind that slam doors, walk out?
Name
Are they
call.
the kind that, or use certain kind of words? Notice how they react when they are angry. Whatever they're showing you, again, when a person is showing you who they are, you need to believe them. That's who they are. You will not be able to change a person. You're going to be you. They're going to be them. And if they're not what you think that you can live with, then it's a red flag. You need to move on. Would you say that?
I would say that. If they're putting you down in the beginning of the relationship, they're going to put you down when you get married. Conditions don't change people. Has to be a change of heart. Has to be a change within them to say, I see this deficit in myself. And then if they're willing to say, will you help me with that? Will you help me manage my anger? Again, things come from childhood. Things come from the environment, the way you were raised. There are some households where they would cuss each other out, get loud with one another. That's what the person knows. That's what they bring in their relationship. When that trigger's hit, boom, it comes out. But if a person is willing to change and willing to correct an error, those are workable things. But you need to talk about those in the beginning.
So when you're dating, one of the other things to really pay attention to or to ask about is, what is their belief system? What is their spiritual experience? Do they believe in going to a place of worship? Or are they the kind that believes I don't have to go into a building, I can just watch whatever on television? Or so what is their belief system? Do they believe in God? Do they believe in Jesus? I mean, do they have the same type of beliefs that you do? Are you on the same page, or are you thinking separately? Would you say?
I would definitely agree with that, because even the scripture says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? And then what happens if you're talking about a marriage and you're going to bring children into this marriage? One has one spiritual belief, the other has another spiritual belief. So what is the household going to believe? Is it going to be, well, I want my child to find their own way? Some say that. And then some say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. But those things have to be talked about early on. Before.
Yeah.
Because when the eye candy is no longer eye candy, you're going to have to live together. And you're going to have to live together in those areas.
In America, 50% of divorces are happening even now. That's within and without outside of the church. Just as many as get married as getting divorced. So there's some dynamics that are going on here. And I think taking the time out to really find out deeply about each other before walking down the aisle and before saying I do. And I do think it's important that you not get emotionally, physically, sexually involved, because that will cloud your thinking.
Definitely.
You will inevitably accept who they are because of the intimacy. But it's not, the intimacy is not what's going to keep you all together.
That's why it's important to ask questions early on, because asking
Early
the question, early on, asking
Before
the
you
questions,
get too much investment.
too much invested, absolutely, causes you to be able to dive deeper in the relationship. So ask questions.